This is the annual Lieutenant Governor's Tourism Summit where all the folks in the tourism industry from around the state gather to talk about what we've done in the past, talk about next year and how we can improve even more on the great numbers we've had for the past 3 years of people visiting Louisiana.
Louisiana Travel Promotion Association is made up of all the tourism industry workers in the state. It is your hotels, your restaurants, your attractions, and your convention and visitors bureaus. Our main purpose is to advocate, educate, and of course promote this great state of Louisiana.
What does tourism mean to the entire state?
Oh, tourism is one of our greatest economic engines in Louisiana. We actually employ more than any other industry in the state of Louisiana.
Your reaction to everything that you've seen and heard here during the entire conference?
Oh, tourism is just growing. The last 3 years, our numbers have just skyrocketed, and this conference gives us a wonderful opportunity to learn more, to learn the changing trends every year in tourism, and to better represent our state.
Why is it important that the state and the public support the tourism industry?
Oh, it has to be a partnership. The Louisiana Office of Tourism is really the backbone, along with LTPA, that gives all the tourism workers in the state the programs to promote and the educational values.
If people have questions like more information about LTPA, what should they do?
Oh, we have a wonderful website. Go to ltpa.org. We hope that while you're in Baton Rouge, you get the chance to sample some of the best flavors of Louisiana. Many of these were presented to you last night with that tremendous opening reception. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Visit Baton Rouge, for such an incredible kickoff event that showcased the only Louisiana tailgating atmosphere. We also hope that this week you will dig into the networking and educational experiences that abound here at Summit. The goal of this conference is to reignite your passion inside each of you and to equip you with that knowledge and the tools for you to help Louisiana really stand out across the nation. And of course, we can't forget, this is an election year with us this year, and we would like to recognize those candidates that are with us this morning. If you will stand when I call your name, please. Former Plaquemine Parish President Billy Nungesser and Jefferson Parish President John Young. Thank you for being with us, and we are thrilled this year to be closing out Summit with a debate of our candidates. As these candidates, all 4 of them are going to be with us this week, vie for the opportunity to lead this state and specifically our tourism industry. We're honored that they're each taking the time to be with us this week. So, let's get started.
Well, in my first campaign for Lieutenant Governor, I observed a lot of places have a story to tell. Ours just happens to be better. So let me reflect on how better it has been and what we have done during these years together. I took office in 2010 in the midst of our latest disaster, the BP oil spill. There were severe negative perceptions, misperceptions that had to be overcome. Potential visitors, having seen that infamous oiled pelican on television, had visions of an oil-covered French Quarter, and we had to fix that. We overcame every misperception, not only to rebound, but to consistently break records. It started with the creation of our new brand, Louisiana Pick Your Passion. Now, I didn't pay a marketing or advertising firm to come up with Louisiana's brand. I brought it to the office, and it actually evolved from an earlier project. And many of you may not realize this, but when I was Secretary of State, we did an extensive renovation and improvement to the exhibits at the old state capitol. And when you emerge from the Louisiana experience, it talks about Huey Long and other things in Louisiana, you go into a room where you're challenged to pick your passion. And those words are on the board, to pick your passion, to volunteer, to do something for Louisiana. So that phrase, pick your passion, came about when we were developing that exhibit, and it stuck with us and decided that would be an appropriate brand for the entire state. I created the brand because Louisiana is my passion. I love our state because of its diversity, our people, our culture, our food, our music, our passion. It's authentic, it's unique. I want people to come here and experience what we experience. That's why Louisiana Pick Your Passion made so much sense to us. The brand has been successful. In national studies, people are now recognizing Pick Your Passion as Louisiana's identity and mark. One day it'll rival Virginia's for lovers, Don't Mess with Texas, What Happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. With time and continued smart marketing, Pick Your Passion will match the most famous of all tourism slogans. Now, in the wake of the spill, Louisiana received $30 million from BP to mitigate damage to the tourism industry. $23.5 million of those dollars went to every parish in the state. The Louisiana Office of Tourism got $6.5 million as a grant to market the entire state. $5 million of that was allocated to advertising, and $1.5 million was allocated to events. With this one-time money, we focused on one-time uses. For the first time ever, we ventured into some new markets. As you can see, we allocated 10% to digital advertising, 26% to broadcast, which included bringing Top Chef to Louisiana and New Orleans, 40% on print advertising and national publications, and 24% on one-time events like our bicentennial celebration, the Natchitoches Tricentennial, the Poverty Point World Heritage Designation, the Only in Louisiana Grammy Brunch, and the Bowling Congress here in Baton Rouge, and the Grand Reveille in Acadiana. As all of you know, I decided not to hire a secretary of the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. The people elected me to do this job, and that gave me the opportunity in doing so to delve into the operations of the department. I learned quickly that it's a big job. Upon my arrival, each agency in the department seemed to operate in a silo. My goal was to rip those silos down and create a culture of cross-promotion among Louisiana's most creative state agency. At the 2011 summit, I introduced you to each assistant secretary in the department, and you heard from them. You may remember the many hats illustration. I'm happy to report that the agencies within the department are now working together more than ever before. I would like each of the assistant secretaries to stand and be recognized. And we have, of course, our head of tourism, Kyle Edmiston, who you all know and love. Kyle? Would everybody who works in the Office of Tourism please stand up as well, because it's a great team. All of you who work in the Office of Tourism, stand up and be recognized. Thank you. And the welcome centers, where are our welcome center hosts? You've heard me say before, they're the face of Louisiana. They're the people who visitors to this state first meet when they walk into those welcome centers. And they're the unsung heroes who do a great job of welcoming people to Louisiana, explaining to them where to go and what to do. A new but familiar face, Dwight Landreneau, who I convinced to come back and run the Office of State Parks a little bit earlier this year when Stuart Johnson retired. Another new face is Phil Bogan, but not really that new, who took the reins of the Office of Cultural Development after Pam Breaux left to take a leadership position in Washington, D.C. Our Louisiana State Museum leader, Mark Tullis, our state librarian, Rebecca Hamilton, Judge Janson, who leads the Volunteer Louisiana efforts, and Karen Profita, who heads the Louisiana Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board. These folks carry out the very important task of making sure they all work together to make sure that we have a common message that lifts up each of these agencies. For example, the state parks system and the Office of Cultural Development are working together to continue to promote the Poverty Point World Heritage Site. Since its World Heritage designation, the 22nd place in America, the 1001 place on the planet to be so named as a World Heritage location, we're upgrading the visitor experience. We have a new brochure as well as a website that allows guests to learn about the site and to plan their trip to Northeast Louisiana. We've also created a video to replace the outdated introduction video that visitors see before they board the tram tour. It was almost as old as the site itself, it seems. After some technology upgrades, the new video will be showing beginning in just a short while this fall. I don't have time to show you the entire 12-minute video, but here's a short peek at some of the updated footage that will be used at Poverty Point. As you know, the site is 3,500 years old. I've checked with Will Mangum, and he remembers when there's a voiceover to this in part of the 12-minute presentation, and if you haven't been to Poverty Point, you really need to go. It's quite a site, and it's going to be a magnet to attract people from all over the world to this site. And we're working with the folks in Northeast Louisiana, the tourism folks, the elected officials, to recognize that collectively they can do a great job of coming together and marketing this site that'll bring people to the entire area of Northeast Louisiana, not just the parishes where Poverty Point immediately impacts. Our other departments are teaming up as well. The Office of Cultural Development is working with the Louisiana State Museum to complete a multi-year project to save a massive 4-foot by 60-foot Conrad Albrizio mosaic. The mural was originally on the site of the mental health facility in Algiers, and it was scheduled to be torn down. In 2009, our OCD staff literally saved it from the wrecking ball, removing it piece by piece. Our friend from Homa's house, where we'll be tonight, Kevin Kelly, graciously stored this mural in pieces for 6 years while the department and other organizations struggled to decide what to do with it and how to raise the money for restoration. I'm very happy to report to you that the project is almost complete, and it's going to be permanently installed in the Capitol Park Museum next month for everyone who goes into that museum to enjoy. I want to particularly recognize Kathy Berry, our chief of staff, who has worked with me, as all of you know, for 27 years. She started when she was 20 and has been involved in a lot of aggressive projects for us and keeping everybody's feet to the fire, and has done a great job in personally taking on the mission of making this happen. She recruited the Daughters of the American Revolution as a primary benefactor on the restoration, has worked tirelessly on this and many other projects. So Kathy, please, well, you can't stand, you got a bum knee, be recognized. I also want to recognize the rest of our staff. My executive assistant, Debbie Newman, who keeps our scheduling straight and does a great job. Deputy Secretary Randy Davis, who all of you know from keeping our money straight and dealing with all of our personnel challenges, and Randy does a great job. Our General Counsel, Julia Moore. Our Special Projects Managers, Richard Hartley, who handles education, Julie Sampson, who handles a little bit of everything, Steve Wyndham, who handles a little bit of everything as well. Our Communications Director, Jacques Berry, and his deputy, Cammie Geisman, who have done a tremendous job of getting the message out about all the great things you're doing and we're doing. Julie Vizino, who oversees boards and commissions and worked on our bicentennial projects. Cindy Summers, our internal auditor. Our Communications Assistant, Carolyn Downer. Our Office Manager, Amy Burej. Our Atchafalaya Heritage Area Team, Deborah Kadur and Ashley Herrick. And Doug Bourgeois, who oversees the Byways program. I could not ask for a better and more professional group of people to represent the finest of the state's classified and unclassified employees. Now, the Louisiana State Museum's Capitol Park Museum and the State Library routinely work together as well on the Louisiana Book Festival. I was committed to bringing back the festival because it's such an important piece of Louisiana's vast festival landscape and cultural legacy, and I hope it's going to continue to flourish. The 2015 festival is October 31st at the Capitol and on the Capitol grounds. If you've never been, I encourage you to come to Baton Rouge and experience this incredible literary culture that's harvested right here in our state and features homegrown Louisiana artists as well as special guest authors. Food, music, everything you'd like in a festival. Now, Volunteer Louisiana is now literally housed inside the state library. That agency works hard to encourage volunteerism throughout the state and is in charge of disaster relief efforts. We hope they won't be called upon this year. Last fall, we launched a volunteer management system, making it easier for nonprofits to match up with volunteers in order to meet their needs. Right now, all 64 parishes are represented among the more than 2,400 opportunities in the system with more than 18,000 registered volunteers. If you need volunteers for any event, I encourage you to register on volunteerlouisiana.gov to list your opportunities. Volunteer Louisiana also teamed up with Keep Louisiana Beautiful for Leaders Against Litter. I have said throughout my entire time in public service that litter is an impediment to economic development and to tourism. In April, leaders throughout the state rolled up their sleeves to clean up the streets. I happened to be in Lake Charles that day, so on a rainy day, I joined Mayor Randy Roach and his team to pick up about 1,000 pounds of trash that had been collected across the state, even though it was a dismal, rainy day. The Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board joined us in 2013. They found a home on the 3rd floor in the annex right next to tourism, where they collaborate on projects and make certain that we're not duplicating expenses but working together to promote Louisiana seafood as well as Louisiana in general. They've collaborated on several opportunities, and promoting seafood while in the midst of Louisiana's travel culinary celebration is a natural fit. In 2012, Hurricane Isaac swamped our beautiful Fontainebleau State Park cabins and deposited unwanted visitors in the park. Here's one of them. You see, he was hungry before he got washed ashore, if you look very carefully. The cabins in Louisiana's state park system are valuable assets, and not having Fontainebleau cabins online has made balancing the budget for the Office of State Parks even more difficult. I hope you saw the recent news that as of yesterday, those beautiful cabins overlooking Lake Pontchartrain are open for business. I know the North Shore is happy to have them back, attracting visitors, and to prove the point of how much we miss them from an economic standpoint, on the first day yesterday that you could reserve those cabins, 1,163 nights were reserved, totaling $150,670. Our state park system weathered the budget storm during this past year. A last-minute boost in funding from the legislature has enabled us to avoid closures and actually restore some funds and some positions that had been cut earlier in the year because of the mid-year budget cuts. Our parks, by the way, at Toledo Bend enjoyed a record year, particularly since the reservoir was named the #1 bass fishing lake in America. And somebody is real proud of that. Now, 2013, you'll remember, was all about music. We spent the year promoting every genre of Louisiana music: Cajun, Zydeco, swamp pop, jazz, as well as the iconic venues across the state like the Municipal Auditorium, Café des Amis, and others. You may recall I made a Louisiana Music Madness bracket of my favorite 64 songs in or about, made in by Louisiana artists or about Louisiana. You all helped me cull that 64 song bracket to the top song that defines Louisiana. I can't remember which one won, but oh yes.
The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. But when I woke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and cried. You are my
I am now batting 6 for 6. We have played that song at every one of my summit speeches, I believe. So it should be no surprise that it won. In the first ever effort to financially support Louisiana musicians, we created our Music Ambassador Program, where Louisiana musicians traveling to perform at venues outside of Louisiana are paid a modest stipend to distribute our Pick Your Passion swag and invite fans on video to come to Louisiana. The deliverable was a video proving that they actually made that pitch. The program has been tremendously successful. 97 different concerts in 26 states and 9 countries, with 9.5 million people in the audience. This program evolved from our bicentennial music tribute, Sunshine by the Stars, which was a partnership with LPB, starring Harry Connick Jr., which received national exposure. In 2013, we also partnered with Oxford American Magazine to host concerts throughout the state. From those concerts, and with the help of the 2013 winners of the Louisiana Film Prize, which is held in Shreveport every year, we created a comprehensive documentary about Louisiana music that I want to share with you today. So sit back and enjoy Louisiana, A Lullaby to Life.
Take one.
Louisiana is a lullaby to life, a concert of culture, a symphony of celebrations. Music in Louisiana was formed by a human gumbo, a wonderful mixture of the world's cultures, which we believe, and will argue forcefully, is the birthplace of American music. The Puritans, the Pilgrims, the early colonists brought traditional hymns and patriotic ballads to early Americans. But the first diverse musical sounds in what would become the United States of America were brought to the territory of Louisiana from France by the early explorers of the Mississippi River Valley in the early 1700s. In fact, the first opera house in America opened in New Orleans in 1796. Although it may not be over till the Fat Lady Sings, it didn't begin until she first came to Louisiana. Those same Frenchmen brought, involuntarily, Africans from the west coast of Gambia as slaves, who in turn brought with them banjos, drums known as bamboula, gourds, and triangles. The musical celebrations and dance, called the bamboula and the kalinda, both exotic and erotic, at Congo Square, evolved into the rhythm of blues and jazz born in the bordellos of Storyville near the French Quarter, from which performers with legendary names emerged. The Razzie Dazzie Spasm Band, Kid Ory, Papa Celestine, Sidney Bechet, King Oliver, Jelly Roll Morton, and Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, who got his nickname because his mouth was so large that it resembled a satchel. His love of Louisiana was evidenced by the way he signed all his letters. Red beans and ricely yours, Satchmo.
He rode Southland with his dreamy song. Yeah, take me back where I belong. Right in my memory's arms. Bad, that, bad, that, video they don't know that. Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Sicilians who settled in New Orleans brought a passion for food and music. Names like Dominic LaRocca and Louis Prima helped introduce jazz and swing to America and the world. In the decades that followed, New Orleans, which a great Louisiana writer described as a poetic city with a prosaic population, contributed operatic soloists like Shirley Verrett and Kitty Carlisle. The soulful, distinctive sounds of Aaron Neville, Alan Toussaint, Dr. John, Irma Thomas, and Ernie K. Doe. The angelic gospel voice of Mahalia Jackson, the trumpet blare of Al Hurt, the smooth clarinet of Pete Fountain, the Mardi Gras blues of Professor Longhair, jazz giants with names like Marcellus, Mayfield, and Harry Connick Jr., and a legendary fat man who walked all the way from New Orleans to Blueberry Hill, Antoine Fats Dominic.
Now what you gonna do when the river dry? You're gonna run away and hide, and I'm gonna run right by your side. You pretty baby, I'll even down walk. You're the deep and I'm talking. but you and me, I'm hoping that you come back here.
The swamps and bayous of Louisiana became home to the Acadian people, Cajuns, who were systematically expelled from Canada in the mid-1700s. They were hunters, fishermen, trappers, filled with joie de vivre, love of life. They found their way to Louisiana, a place that welcomed their Catholic faith and provided a bountiful place to call their own. They fancied the fiddle, or squeeze box, and the frottoir, a washboard rubbed with a spoon.
All right.
They gave us new genres of music like Cajun, swamp pop, and Zydeco, with colorful Creole performers including Clifton Chenier, Buckwheat Zydeco, Rockin' Sydney, and Beau Soleil. And a new generation of young performers are sustaining the music and cultural traditions of their French ancestors. Lest anyone think North Louisiana was devoid of musical genes, one need only visit the Municipal Auditorium, still standing in Shreveport, Louisiana, where in October of 1954, a young man hit the stage and began performing. It was there, in Shreveport, that the iconic phrase, "Elvis has left the building," was born.
All right, Elvis has left the building. I've told you absolutely straight up to this point, you know that he has left the building. He left the stage and went out the back with the policeman, and he is now gone from the building. I remind you again that the hayride will continue right on until 11:30 o'clock, presenting again most of the country artists that you...
Those Louisiana girls wouldn't leave until they knew the soon-to-be crowned king was gone.